Welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Hello and welcome to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast, episode 64. My name is Ian.
I'm Nikki. There's the silence.
I'm Tom.
I'm Mike, as of Mike's Mutterings.
I'm Pete.
Yay, we got there. We got there.
So
Smooth.
Bit of editing involved there.
Like I said, I could have organised that, but I thought, no, let's throw them into it. So, how was Thought Bubble, guys?
I got thrown out.
Yeah.
So we are recording this the weekend before Thought Bubble, but this will be out after Thought Bubble. I think all of us, bar Mike, are heading along in some way, shape or form.
Yep,
So
I'll be there.
Yep.
reports will come up following episode about how that was and how it went. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the Comic Art Festival 2019, which has been and gone.
It has.
Oh.
It went quick, didn't it? It really did go quick.
It always does.
Yeah, you wait all year for it, and then that's it.
Then it's gone.
It's like
and now,
Christmas.
now we've got to crank it up. Don't even bring Christmas into this.
No, it's not my fault. I was playing Christmas music.
She started playing Christmas music.
He won't let me put the tree up.
That's way
The
too soon.
radio stations have started playing them as well. There's a whole radio station dedicated to it that started November 1st.
That's what
on.
she had on a second ago.
Yes, Heart Christmas. Do it.
Love it.
No.
Should be illegal.
Shouldn't be illegal.
Should be
He
illegal.
won't let me go in the loft to get the tree out. It's so mean.
I'm just glad you're short. Right, so today, we're going to talk about the festival weekend. We're going to do it day by day, look at the events we got to, or, as in Pete's case, what he did whilst selling behind the table. First, though, we're going to go to Tom, who hasn't been to the lakes.
Wow.
What is your view, or what do you believe the lakes is all about from what you've heard and seen on Twitter?
Well, by what I've seen from everybody speaking about it, it's almost like, by the looks of things, the whole town kind of transforms into like this kind of comics hub. I mean, you guys were posting about all like the window displays and everything that were going on at the time, and there seemed to be a lot of people posting about like talks and events that were kind of leading up to it as well.
Yeah.
So it does kind of ramp up. There's a lot of big hype coming up to it. There's a lot of people talking about it as it's building up, and everybody's getting really excited about going and everything as well. Even from like following it along through the weekend, there was a heck of a lot of like participation with people putting up pictures of talks that they've been to, and people coming to everybody's tables and folks that they were speaking to, and events sort of before and after and everything. It just looks like it's a whole kind of community, but not just in the one space. It's very much spread out by the looks of things.
Correct. Ding, ding. Point to Tom.
Oh, is there points?
There is. Basically, for those who haven't been, that is probably best explained by somebody who's not been. That is it. These are the lakes. It's such a good fun event. So, is there anything that stood out before the event, Tom, that made you think, "Oh, I'd be interested in this"?
Probably the kind of level of guests that the festival actually got, because it's not every day that Garth Ennis is turning up to an event, is it? You know what I mean? He only does a lot of the ones sort of where he's staying. It was big names. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of the festivals and a lot of the small sort of Comic Cons and stuff, they're all trying within their sort of means and stuff. But the Lakes kind of goes above and beyond. So I think that's, as a comics fan, I think that would be one of the things that would really drag me very much from this end down there. I mean, I really wanted to go, to be fair. I kept seeing all the guests that were turning up and all the exhibitors and sort of going, dang, I wish I could get down.
Well, next year we'll get you in, that's for sure. Definitely. Pete, you obviously have done probably more events than all of us, I'm guessing. And you keep coming back to the lakes. What is it that pulls you back each year, and what is it you particularly enjoy?
Well, the people. Primarily, it's great, stood behind a table, but it's even better well, it's great to be on a table and selling your stuff, but it's even better just chatting to people, getting out from behind your desk, getting out of that, mindset of you've got to complete your whatever project you're on. You're in a like-minded room full of people who all enjoy pretty much at least one of the aspects that you do. So you can instantly kind of have a rapport with most people, and even the people who come up to the table and say, I don't really read comics. What is this about? That's just a great opportunity to find out what you can kind of find in common ground, whether there is anything that you've done that they're interested in, and where the conversation goes from there. So I think primarily it's it's both the public, the pros, and your peers. It's the 3 Ps.
That's expertly done.
And the 4th, the Pete up the evening of the Saturday night.
Definitely.
I think this event, and there's a couple similar to it. Oldham is the same, and Matt Powell's the same. The fact that it's free entry to where you guys are selling the comics means you aren't just getting comic lovers in there, which does give you the opportunity to sell to new people.
That was something I just picked up on there, Pete. You said converting people. Did you fear that there was a lot of people that came along that didn't really know about comics and just kind of stumbled in because of the feel of the town kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. It was something to do. And I spoke to a number of people who had an interest in geeky things, but didn't necessarily regularly read comics. Right. So they enjoyed movies. There was one guy who collected Funkos, somebody else who they like anime. And there's enough connections for them to see that, this is a place of interest for them. So they would always wander around. And, you don't expect sales from every conversation. People are going to wander around and have a look at everything before they come back. It's always nice to see the people you remember chatting to come back to your table. And sometimes it's the day after. But, lots of different people. Some of the people who were guests at some of the events. I had a really nice chat to an illustrator who just finished one of the events. Oh, wow. So it's a real mix of people that come by, and it's a great way to spend the day. It's brilliant. Nice. Yakking about comics.
And what is it you enjoy, Mike? With it being just on our doorstep, it's we're very lucky. Let's put it that way. But
we are very lucky. I mean, the first festival happened very shortly after I moved to the Lakes for the first time, and I was absolutely taken aback with it. Again, touching on what Tom said, it's the whole town. I've been going to comic conventions all my adult life, and this was just so fantastic. I've been to so many first events, and I can't believe they got so much right the first time. And I think it was because I was waxing lyrical and gushing about it. You ended up approaching me as talent for the podcast, in fact. That's the exact way it happened. And it's just fantastic that it's on my doorstep. I immediately wanted to get involved in any way, shape or form. So I bit your hand off, I think, didn't I, at the time? Yeah. It's just an amazing atmosphere. And it is my favourite weekend of the year. Has been since the first one. Excellent. I go to all sorts of comic conventions, but this is a proper festival. And it's really hard to sell that to people, I find, sometimes. Or they don't believe just how sort of like an entity Kendall become. It's just like every public space is hired out and used in some way. The shops get involved, and it's just absolutely superb event. Yeah,
no, well, obviously we're doing this for a reason, because we love it. So, right, let's get into the days then. So, the Friday. Mike, did you do anything on the Friday itself?
Well, I was hurrying back from Pudsey from a business trip and got back quite late. However, I can confirm that in honour of what the film offering for the Friday night was, we actually sat down and watched the original Dawn of the Dead. I believe they were showing Shaun of the Dead and the remake of Dawn. Yeah. So I thought I'd be contrarian and watch the original because we'd seen the remake recently. Basically, it's one of my favourite films of all time. Both of them, I love both versions. I have to say that. So out of official festival activities, I actually missed out, I'm afraid.
I love the fact that you've still got involved in some way.
Oh yeah.
So Pete, you came up this way on the Friday. Explain your accommodation to us.
Well, first of all, it was a car trip rather than a train trip. So that immediately changed the whole weekend because the train trip up is usually pretty horrendous. It's fine going up. I usually head up through the heads of the valley in Wales, and then you get to Crewe and you get crammed on some Virgin train with no seat and no ventilation for about an hour and a half. Luckily, I missed all that out. Me and my partner in crime on Silverbeard, fellow comic artist Mark Hughes, who I might occasionally refer to as Sock. That's just his nickname. He drove up, and never before, I've been to the lakes probably the last 7-8 years on holiday. Never made it in the time we made it stop driving. I think we actually came under the Google advised, 5.5 hours.
That's
Google.
always a competition, though, isn't it? You've got to beat the sat nav.
So I think we might have made it in something like 5.25 with Mark driving. And yeah, we, for the first time as well, I'd normally be in the Premier Inn. This year we had an Airbnb with fellow small pressers, Gustavo Vargas, who I hadn't met before this weekend. I'd seen his stuff online. He's got his own range of, I suppose, like futuristic cyberpunk with a sort of South American tribal twist. Martin Simpson and his wife Tish. Martin is the creator behind The Needleman. Gateway City's own Russell Mark Olsen and his wife Emily, and the mighty Nick Prolix, all in one small. Well, it wasn't. It was actually quite a big Airbnb, but yeah, it was lovely. So having
frat house,
it was great, And Russell brought along a bit of recording gear. So once everyone arrived, I mixed some black and tans, and we ended up sitting around and just shooting the breeze about creating comics for a while. And yeah, it was great. The lovely bunch, and really made the weekend. Ended up hanging out with them on pretty much every night.
Yeah, no, I found it really funny that you guys were all getting together in this, like you say, little frat house. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. It was great, and I was skipping ahead then, but no, it was really, really good. And then I think we ended up in the brewery, just doing more of the same really later on, just having a drink, shooting the breeze,
spotting who you could find, and the names walking around.
Yeah, it was just a really good time. Yeah, great bunch of scroll lords. We ended up christening ourselves.
I was going to ask you to mention that, actually.
I've jumped ahead. That was Saturday night, actually. The birth of the scroll was Saturday night, yeah.
So Friday, obviously, we didn't have to travel anywhere, which is always nice. We have a day off. So we didn't really do much, to be fair. No. We get the tickets, passes, wander around, look at all the galleries. The one event we did go to, though, was the first showing of Edward Taylor's Godzilla versus the Fatberg.
Yes.
Which we were invited to this by Julie. And we wandered in. We were the first people there. We didn't know what we were going to see.
No idea what we were doing.
We had no idea what this event was. We knew this event was on the weekend, as in the Fatberg, but we didn't know we were going to see that.
No, she just told us to turn up, didn't she?
Yeah. Just turn up, sit down. You can have a look at this event.
Yeah. No idea.
It was freaky, weird, odd, but brilliant at the same time.
So it's fine.
So it's
a Japanese paper theatre.
There you go. I was going to explain it in a very long form. I'm glad you did it so quickly. Essentially, Edward telling the tale of a odd version of Godzilla.
There's a reason for that.
Fighting a Fatberg.
Yes.
and that is a story.
Yes.
But it is done in such a fun way. He when you meet him, he's such a quiet guy. But when he gets up there and performs his motion comic, I think it's probably a good way of calling it as well. He seems to just come out of himself and perform this tale. It's great fun. So I think if anybody's got a chance to see him in the future, it's well worth, putting 15 minutes out of your time to go and
we
enjoy.
got a jelly baby, so it's good.
And you get jelly babies at the end if you're lucky.
Oh, nice.
I was just going to say, so we don't get too cliquey on this. Do you want to explain to the audience who Julie is?
Sorry, we do say the name so many times. Julie Tate is the festival director.
Yes.
So the Overlord,
The Overlord.
the Trinity.
She bought us a drink last night. It's all right.
Yeah, we got a free drink last night. It's all good. We then had an interview which we played last episode with the Danish crew.
Yes.
Which was really good. I must admit, there was such a
lovely.
lovely group of people. And then we chilled until the evening when the Friday Night Viz Challenge was on.
Yes, to draw the 150 characters in 90 minutes. Wasn't
Yes.
It? Yeah.
So, Tom, had you seen anything of this at all?
Yeah, you folks had mentioned it, so I was trying to follow along online to see if there was anything going up. There was a couple of pictures of them all sitting down, and I think was it like 4 or 5 of them in a row or something like that, and they were all trying to draw as many characters really, really quickly, and they were all projected up on the board and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, so Simon Thorpe, Graham Dewey, Steve McGarry, Luke McGarry. There was also Mark Jackson. And I think there was someone else. I can't remember who else was up there now.
Yeah. It looked,
a guy from Viz.
Yeah, that's one of those I just mentioned.
Oh. I'm not very good at this. I'm trying to think how they're sitting.
It looked pretty intense. All the tables up on the stage, and they were all just like so focused and everything as they're going. But I think somebody had said something online about like there was quite a bit of banter was going back and forward as well.
There was, yeah. I mean, these shows are always about that. They are always about having a bit of fun and getting the audience involved.
Yes, so
you wouldn't think they would be. You wouldn't think they would be bantering about whilst trying to hammer out as many characters in that time. Though, you know what I mean? You think they would just be totally focused on it.
They did it quite well because they had Peter Kessler was on stage controlling it, and he was getting the audience had to shout out the name of the character that was being drawn.
Yeah.
Then that counted as the drawn character. Essentially, was the idea. So it was guess the character.
But you got a pen. You got a free pen.
You got a free pen. Right. And you made me shout out just so you could get a free pen.
Yes, because I was coming out with the answers and you were going, and then someone else would shout out further away, and I'd be like, Ian, just shout it. I want a pen.
Where's the pen?
In my bag.
Okay, you've got it. The best thing about these events normally, though, because we live in Kendal, Tim Farron is our MP, and he always, for some reason, likes to do a little speech at the beginning. Yeah. And he is hilarious. He is absolutely hilarious, talking about Viz, his love of Viz itself, and his love of comics, and it's just great to have that involvement.
It's when he swears, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's like hearing your dad swear.
And as happens each year, the Sergei Award is announced, and this year it was Charlie Adlard, who obviously has finished his run on The Walking Dead now. So it's good to see that. So I'll be intrigued for next year's.
Yes, carry on.
You've
lost it.
Anyway, I have lost it. So let's jump on to the Saturday then, when the festival really kicks off. So, Mike, what was your Saturday about then? What did you get involved in? What did you do?
Right. First off, get my pass. And I'm sorry, but from a personal point of view, I love the fact that I have a press pass. It's so childish, but the second you get it, I just instantly see myself Fifth Element style multi-pass. The woman gives it me, and I just hold it up with a big beaming smile, and she just doesn't get it at all. And yeah, that makes me a really small person. I know that.
Can I be smaller now?
Oh yeah, go on.
We get a VIP press pass.
We do.
It doesn't get us anywhere extra.
I'm really not sure what that gives you more.
It gives us absolutely nothing.
It's in red.
It's only 3 letters. Why can't they add it to my But yeah, actually, there was so much stuff that I had written down, basically because of the podcast bit that myself and Pete did about all the things that were coming up to advertise what the different events were. and there were so many that we covered and did our own version of that I really wanted to go and see. I ended up seeing no events on the Saturday, and I'm not disappointed with that, actually, because for myself, I've realised that one of my favourite parts of the festival is actually just pressing the flesh, just going through all the different stalls, talking to the creators, and it's amazing how much time that takes. And even when you're outside the clock tower, even just going to the cafe for something much needed to eat, and the amount of people that I suddenly realised we were sat with. So that then starts into a huge conversation with all these various people that I've known from previous festivals, and it was just absolutely wonderful. There were so many new people. It was great to see a lot of familiar faces for me anyway. Finally tapped up Kugali Media for the volume 1 of Kugali, and the Clockwork Watch guys, which is always great because Yomi just sees you from across the room and shouts at you, which is always really great. And you just wander over and it's like, I've got nothing to buy from them because I've got it all already, but that's not what they're there for. They just want a good chat, and that was great. Again, there was Mark Abnett I spent quite a bit talking to. He is a good laugh.
He is.
And I said we're going to interview him. I don't know whether you said the same or not.
I think you'd already said you basically bagsed that. So.
Oh right, good. That's what I like. I like to set my camp out early. That's all. And again, I feel contractually obliged to field my Comic Art Podcast T-shirt on the Saturday. Sort of out of loyalty. I'm not sure if I'm contractually obliged, but
you are. Yes.
Really funny how many people just walk up to me and start a conversation halfway through that they started with you, Ian. They see us as interchangeable, and it makes it really confusing. But anyway,
that's what having a beard causes these issues.
I know, big bloke beard. Oh right, that must be Ian stroke Mike stroke somebody from the podcast.
So they think it's me.
I was going to say there's the issue, isn't it? How you doing, Nikki?
I'd cry.
Never wear a beard. That's what I'm going to say, Nikki. Yeah, it was just so much good fun. My partner Alison absolutely loves that as well. We spent a fortune in page 45, and a lesson I've learned is if you vaguely want something, just buy it there and then.
Yeah.
Rather than go back on a Sunday when you're trying to do other things. I had the whole Sunday planned out, and I knew I wasn't going to have much time for getting anywhere else. So buy it when you see it. It's amazing how much stuff gets sold out by the next day. And of course, the window trail. I hadn't had a chance to go around it at all, so we did do a good trip all the way around town for that as well. And that's just great to see how people are getting involved. But yeah, it's still also going back and forwards to the brewery for the free exhibitions and stuff like that as well. So yeah, cool day.
It still surprises me, even though it is our home event, when people come up and say, "Oh, we listen."
Yeah.
I
like
it
that.
brings a smile to your face.
Recognised by your voice, it's quite freaky, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was too distinct. But, are we rolling Saturday night into this?
We can. Well, no, we'll do Saturday night altogether, I think, in a minute.
Yeah. Do it as a second.
Pete, so how did your Saturday go?
It was the very first time I had Silverbeard, my new comic, just been successfully kickstarted. So it was the very first time I'd had it on a table. So it was a really exciting day for me. I had just that on the table this year, a few prints and a few props, because it's an interesting journey, really. When you have a comic, you don't necessarily know the best way to tell people about it. So the first few times you have it on your table, it's a bit of a journey for yourself to actually, describe it to people. And a lot of people, and that's, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people will arrive at your table and just say, "Tell me about your comic." So, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of hone your I don't like to call it a pitch really, but your story really. I don't feel I'm pitching to people. I do feel I'm just telling them about what I did and why. And there's an extra conceit with Silverbeard that it's actually a character who's already existed and was published in the 60s. I see I've fallen into the story already. It's published in the 60s and 90s. But I had some basically props on my table as well as my book. So I've recreated about 6 or 7 old cat food comics. So they are just old comics with a false cover on them, but they're in a plastic bag and they're beaten up and they're specially sort of prepared to look old. And so I would be telling people while showing them these old comics, and I said, "Oh, these are recreations of what the old comics were." I said, but unfortunately, due to the poor paper and the toxic ink involved, and then I had an extra prop behind the table, and I would hold up a plastic bag that was in the Kickstarter video. We actually used it for the campaign. And it's a recreation of a kind of disintegrated comic book. So it's got a bit of flour at the bottom. It's got a bit of old 50s Superman comic. It's all mixed in with a bit of the logo there. So it's a recreation of a disintegrated comic. And after you've gone through the spiel and you lift up this disintegrated comic, the look on some people's faces at the table, there was gasps of shock. It was kind of like, oh my God. So it was interesting to kind of work through that and find what the best way was. But it was very engaging and, it went really well. I was chuffed to bits. We did really well on the first day. We did have lots of sales and lots of interests and lots of great chats. So I was really pleased. It was a great first day. I didn't manage to get away. I didn't manage. Occasionally, I might nip off for a signing, but I didn't. I did plan to nip off to some on the Sunday, but on the Saturday, I just pretty much stayed at the table. But, in situations like this, you are lucky enough to have various pros pop round and you can see various people coming through. And if you're lucky, they'll stop for a chat. So we were lucky enough to have Sean Phillips stop by on the Saturday and he came over and said hello. He'd just been to one of the, I think it's the Little Beasties event, was it? When he was in a room with.
That's on Sunday. They did the actual draw, but they may have been drawing at the Kids Zone on the Saturday.
Was probably what it was. He said he was really excited because he just basically been challenged and been asked to draw stuff that he'd never drawn before. He showed us Shrek that he'd drawn on his phone and characters from Five Nights at Freddy's. So, he was really, really pumped up. He'd had a really great time at that event. So, it's fab. Even though you are stuck behind your table, sometimes you are lucky enough that you will get people wandering through.
I think that's good with the guests. You do have time to do that. They're not stuck constantly doing events, and they don't get tables either, essentially, so they can actually wander around and get involved, which is, I imagine for them, is really nice. You're in the same room again, so essentially in the clock tower where the vendors are, there's 3 main rooms, and you're always in the same room on the left. I'm assuming you like it
toilets.
There. Do you ask for that, or do they just throw you in?
Funny enough, the very first year I was in front of the stage. On the top.
You were, because that's where we met you.
Yeah,
that's right. But every year since, I've been in that the left hand room. It's
essentially the first
downstairs.
room most people go into.
Yeah, it's the start of the circuit. It seems, and been back next to Nigel from My Armada for the last couple of years as well. So that's been nice. It's lovely. You can. See people at the start of their journey and remind them there is upstairs. Some people are surprised there's an upstairs. It's as well to remind them. But it's great.
Excellent. So our Saturday, again, I must admit, we do enjoy walking around the clock tower.
Yes.
And it does take up, like Mike said, a lot more time than you think especially if you're trying to do interviews. It really does fill up your day. But we had a few things we wanted to see. The first one we saw in the morning was My Own Private Hell, which was, we love the live draws.
Oh yeah, that's the best one.
They are the best events out there. This had Junko, Sean Phillips, Duncan Fagredo and Lois Campbell, hosted by Chris Thompson, and essentially they were set challenges to draw, well, things within their own private hell, as it says. There was a couple of different topics, and they also interviewed, so there's 2 drawing and 2 being interviewed at the same time. We have got a recording of this, so it will be up in a future episode. But it was just seeing them, again, as always with these live draws, the different styles come across, especially having Junko there, whose style is so different to the 3 gents behind the table. But watching Duncan draw.
I love watching Duncan draw.
That's probably the one I was gutted the most about missing.
He is, you know, I mean, we've seen Sean draw a lot, but Duncan's style, I don't know, it's mesmerising. It really is.
I love watching people draw.
We also saw, which we played last episode, the 30 Years in Comics with Garth Ennis. We just couldn't miss that. You know, it was the one and only chance to... although we got told off by Garth.
We did.
Oh, did you?
I know,
yes. We went to go and say hello to him, and it's like, these are the guys that didn't want to interview me.
I know, I'm sorry, did.
Everyone else can get contact with the phone. These ones good. It's like, we don't know how to arrange that. We just use Skype.
Hey, at least you stood out.
So we've been told off by Garth Ennis.
That's not a claim to fame.
He's going to say he's remembering us for the wrong reasons, but he still remembered us. And we got someone else to do the interview for us, so you know.
We just recorded it, it's fine.
We did also on the Saturday go and see the new for this year, the D&D room. Did you get there on a Saturday, Mike, or?
I did, yes.
Yeah? What were your thoughts of that?
I loved the idea of D&D being in... because it's such a cross-influence thing, isn't it? Comics and D&D. As if you do listen to the podcast, you know that I've probably gone on enough about it over the last 4 months. But yeah, it was. I really liked the fact that they had a bespoke adventure written for charity, which I did purchase, and it's a good adventure as well, actually. It was probably a little less than I was hoping for when it came to vendors and stuff, but there was some interesting people that they got into the dungeon room, which ironically is on the top floor.
With very little lighting.
Yes.
The idea was you were supposed to follow little blue D20 stickers, weren't you, to it? And I kind of made an offhand tweet about that, which... D&D followers I have over in America were laughing at, because you just instinctively follow a D20 sticker. It's just inbuilt if you're into D&D or tabletop RPG of that sort. But it was. I think I was hoping for a bit more sort of focus on D&D and vendors, I think, but I thought it was quite cool that they were doing beginner games for people who are interested. So I saw quite a bit of that going on as well.
The idea was...
Two of those people that are as well, who were running it. So, yeah, it was interesting.
The idea was definitely right. And it came about Phil and Katie, who often volunteer for the Lakes, decided they wanted to run an event. So essentially they put it together, which is brilliant. You know, in fact, it's the Lakes giving these volunteers the opportunity to try something new.
Yeah.
I agree. It's probably where it wasn't ideal, but they're limited with the bigger rooms to be able to do these events sometimes, I must admit. But let's briefly talk. I'm going to segue here now. Something's possibly coming off the back of this, Mike, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, no.
I don't know how it happened, but it is.
You two are in so much trouble.
It's so weird. So I took a picture of this room and put a tweet out. Oh, maybe someone should do an event of this properly in Kendal, you know, a standalone event, I mean. And then one of the councillors jumped on board and said, well, why not?
Oh, nice.
And I tagged Mike in, just said, you know, it was basically as a joke. Go on, Mike, you know, you're interested in this. And now it might be happening.
Yes.
Can I add, at no point did I say yes to it.
No, you still haven't, actually.
3 days later, I'm sat in front of a counsellor and I'm somehow finding myself pitching it to him, and I'm not. How did that happen?
I really don't
That
know.
was so funny.
He's very clever at what he does. That's what we're going to say.
Yes, yeah.
Did you
So-
also buy an apartment in Spain?
So coming off the back of that, we're going to get Phil and Katie hopefully involved as well. There may well be a event in Kendal, standalone D&D event. It's so weird. I'll still pinch myself, but we'll talk about that down the line as things progress.
Yes.
Oh, and we rename this podcast. So Tom, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the guide. Is there anything on the Saturday at all that maybe stood out to you on Twitter or that you'd seen?
Well, on the actual Saturday itself, the Lakes account actually put out a picture of the live draw with Duncan Fregredo and Junko Mizuno and Sean Phillips, and that stage setup. Oh my god, that looked amazing! All those like leather-bound button-back sofas and chairs and everything. But the screen was actually really impressive, I thought, because a lot of these like live draw things, it's just somebody kind of projecting on like an old sort of backlit projector, and then you get this tiny little thing on the back, and you're kind of squinting to see. But that thing was massive. It's like a proper cinema screen.
It is a cinema screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really nice to see that, because then everybody's able to keep the focus on the drawing, but also listen to the interview kind of thing at the same time. You're not kind of, I don't know, but having it that sort of double perspective right there, everybody's able to kind of, they're not distracted. You know what I mean? They're not having to keep their focus on one and the other kind of thing. There was that wide view to it, so it looked really good.
It's set in, so about to explain with the Brewery Centre, it's set in that is a theatre or a cinema where they do it. So you'll have, like I say, the posh chairs in the middle where they have a chat. Then either side are two tables. Usually one's a digital tablet and the other's pencil drawing. And they've got the cameras viewing down the top, and they can flick between the two. So they can constantly flick over whoever's drawing.
Yeah.
And see who's,
just,
further on.
It's just good to see that kind of level of commitment and like kind of professionalism, to be honest, put into it, instead of just kind of ramshackled things like, oh, we've got to get these little bits wrapped up to make it look authentic kind of thing. It shows the commitment behind the festival to put that extra bit forward. I think aside from that, I'd seen that Sean Phillips was doing the We Draw You thing as well, and I saw his picture of Shrek as well, which was really nice.
It was great.
It was just, it's good to see him sitting in amongst all the kids as well. It's good to see such a big comic artist actually taking part in influencing kids to draw kind of thing and showing them what he does. Makes all the difference, because I mean, without kids getting into comics, I mean, where's the future generation going to come from? So it's great to see that actually being influenced and that being available at the festival as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you were saying as well, it's great to see like the actual guests getting up and walking about and getting involved and everything as well. That's you see a lot of guests at other festivals and that turning up and just doing their thing and away they go, and that's it. Whereas that's really a full-on participation on the Lakes part, definitely.
I think we sometimes look at some of these name comic creators like they are these superstars, similar to the movie world, which they're not. They're nothing like that.
Normal people.
They're generally not stuck up their own arse. Obviously, there's a few, but we won't go into that. but generally, they are just.
They all come from humble beginnings, like any of us, don't they?
And all their job is just sitting in their bedrooms normally, or their offices, just drawing away. They are just normal people, and it's great to then go and speak to them, and realise that.
I think it's definitely all the difference, big time. Seeing the guests mingling. I think aside from that, on the Saturday, for me, I was just gutted to have missed out on the Smurfs at 60. The Smurfs were huge for me as I was growing up. That was when they were doing all their taped singles and everything and putting them back on the telly in the reruns. So I was like, oh man, gutted.
Right, so then we went home for a bit, and then Saturday night started.
Yes.
So,
Pete.
where were you?
Yeah, I got in trouble. Got in trouble.
So we started off and we went down to the brewery,
Yeah.
just to see who was about, and we bumped into the lovely Tony Esmond, who we had many hours of chat.
We did.
Which we talked about, about his life and books and comics, and it was lovely, actually.
Yeah, it was a lovely evening, yeah.
And then we thought, we'll make arrangements to meet Mike and Pete and everyone who were with at the festival bar. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Ruskins, they'll be there. He'll be there.
Yeah.
So we rock up there. We drag Tony along.
We did.
Along with us, And we sit down and we chat to Tony.
Yeah.
And we chat to Tony.
We do.
And then Tony goes.
Tony's got a gap at 3 in the morning to drive back.
So where were you?
I'm confused. When were you in the fest? Where were you in? When were you in Ruskins?
After you'd left.
Well, we went. There was me, Mike, and Mark, and we had the free beer tokens. So
we didn't get any of those.
No.
It was the Tom of Finland sort of little invite thing that if you had one of those, it had a free beer with it.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that though? After we ate something, you guys left me so I could try and catch them.
That's right.
It was the Tom of Finland leather party.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's the one.
Pop-up bar. And I was actually I actually went in there on my own. Luckily, the leather requirement was optional. Even luckier, I had quite a few free drinks tickets.
That's I think the failing was we decided to have the free beer before the food. And we had more than one free beer token. And that's right. We then went for food. You went back to Ruskins. Me and Mark went to see an artist called Paul Harrison Davies, who had drawn a Silverbeard piece for me. And there's a whole drama during the day. He'd lost his portfolio on the train, and the piece he'd done for me was in there. Luckily, it was caught at another station. It was managed to send back. His wife brought the portfolio back. Hooray! Everyone was happy. Mm-hmm. And I went to pick it up from him, and I ended up buying a piece from him. It was a Batman 66 piece for my daughter Nancy. I didn't have the money for that piece when I picked it up, but he let me take it, and I went to pay him the money for that piece, which was why I ended up missing both of you at Ruskin.
Oh.
Which is a terrible. I've obviously failed you and myself
and the podcast.
Yes.
And
the whole of Kendall, really.
I'd just like to now say
I
this
will
is the
move
last
to
time
the
you'll hear
D&D
Pete.
podcast immediately.
I'm doing a new logo. We're not having that rubbish on there anymore. With crayons.
I've got to say, the Saturday night's a really big thing for me. It always has been, but it's part of the festival. It's like, yeah, okay, you get to do the cool day. But do people realise if they go out at night, the entire town is just full of comic book artists going from bar to bar?
Pissed comic book artists.
Yes. And the last couple of years, I mean, again, last year, it's great for me to see Pete because it's very hard to keep this long distance bromance going. So it's nice for us to get together every now and then. And the great thing with Pete, of course, he has a huge entourage of fellow artists, which I get to spend the night with, and that's great. And this year, no exception. Fantastic. I mean, I've known Martin now for a couple of years, and it's great to go out for a drink with him. Gustavo was a really good laugh. Nick Prolix is just like, I don't know, he just comes across guru-like. He's fantastic.
It's the hair.
I finally got to meet Mark as well, to meet Sock, which was just fantastic for me. I think there was a bit of a Welsh bonding moment for a while there. I just think it's a huge part of the festival for me. And I make sure I enjoy myself that night. So, yeah.
This year there wasn't as much going on as far as events. I think last year there was probably too much, and some events were just a bit too quiet because everyone focused on one.
Yes,
whereas
true,
this year they just had the Charlie Adlard and
Luke.
McGarry brothers
Yep.
creating their own band for the Leather Party.
And it's interesting, over the last couple of years, we've seen that, haven't we? Where, yes, they're all interested in beer, and then they start realising that they're all interested in music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bit musically last year, and then this year, you just had all those top artists sort of playing while you're drinking. It's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely superb night. But I was going to say there was a little less going on. I really enjoyed the previous year with all the sort of like the live role play type stuff going
that
on
was fun.
with the Clockwork Watch guys. But it did mean that there was long gaps between drinks. I do like the fact that you can sit in one or two places and drink and have everyone come to you.
Next year, I think we'll plan a little secret adventure to a not-so-secret bar where all the big names go.
Oh, yes, we shall go there.
Yes, the Speakeasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to have one there next year.
A couple of people had asked me or said to me, "Oh, that Speakeasy's great, isn't it?" I was kind of like, "I haven't been yet."
I mean, you need to take out a loan, but it's worth every penny.
Yes.
Okay.
It's good. So yeah, we'll look at that next year.
Sell more books. Right.
Sell more books, and you can afford to buy a drink there.
One drink.
Tom, from events you've been to, what sort of things do they generally do on an evening? Is there anything that jumps out to you, or?
Well, personally, I've not been to a lot of the evening time events, but what I've heard from a lot of the artists and sort of creators and people behind the tables and whatnot is that they all just go and get absolutely booted. Each one of them always just going about like where they're going and like if they're going for something to eat and stuff like that. I don't think it was any sort of exception by the looks of what I saw from the lakes. It was a lot of people, obviously, the next day, not on the night, where there's a lot of people the next day kind of saying, "Oh, a bit fragile this morning," and stuff like that. But it's to be expected, everybody, this is it's the time when everybody kind of gets to see everybody, gets to see all their friends and everything, and get together with folks that they haven't seen sort of all year, if this is maybe the only one that they do in the year or something like that. So it's, it's good to see kind of the small communities of people getting together and actually getting a chance to catch up. You know what I mean? Especially if they're staying over as well and making a full weekend of it. This is kind of like, it's almost like the kind of the comics holiday per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
yeah, definitely.
We always joke. I mean, Thought Bubble, they do a big thing on evenings, Pete, don't they? Have you ever been to one of those?
Yeah, it's usually a food court in the middle of the city centre. Mm-hmm. So it's big enough to hold everybody. You've got a wide variety of kind of different bars and different eateries. It's properly full-on mixed, so you do have the pros, exhibitors, and I think previously if a punter bought a weekend pass, they could go as well. So you do end up, queuing behind, Kieran Gillen, or we sat at a table. Mark was asked to take a photo of Sarah Pacelli and her entourage. So you've got, the chance to sort of mix with the mighty. There's usually a disco as well in one corner. Mm-hmm. But, of course, it's moved for the first time this year. So it's not in Leeds this year. It's in Harrogate. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it's still going to be a little more central. More central than the Lakes, in the fact that the Lakes has the two bars, and now you've obviously got the Speakeasy and certain other places. In Thought Bubble, it was focused on the Radisson Blu Hotel bar any night that on the Friday and the Sunday night, and then the food court on the Saturday.
Cool. So it's good to hear that. Yeah, they all do similar sort of things.
Yeah, it's good to let your hair down on the Saturday night, and you end up meeting people that you haven't managed to speak to during the day as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then that followed to Bleary Sunday morning. Mike, so we'll go to you first, Mike, but I don't want you to talk about the last event. We'll do that separately, I think, because that deserves a bit of time to discuss.
Ooh, and I completely agree with that approach. Yeah.
So before that, what did you get up to?
Right. with both of us with passes, we decided to sort of enjoy the events more. So again, the live draws, they're just the best. They are always my favourite events. And we did the Beasties live draw, which was superb. I know I tweeted out quite a bit of that, and I know you guys did as well. That was just brilliant. I did manage to quickly get to see Pete and Mark again, and just, even though I said, always buy what you know, when you think you might want something, buy it, we still ended up going around a few places as well in between. But there was also a Dungeons and Dragons talk. Funnily enough, I was sat there waiting outside. We got there about 10 minutes early, I think. Me and Alison were sat on this big sofa. And we were joined by a gentleman, and I was about to say hello, and then somebody rushed across and started talking official business with him. And that was said councillor, who has since engaged with us. So you recognised me, obviously, when we met up, that I was the guy on the sofa. And then, of course, the finale. But it was great just to go around the clock tower a bit, and at the brewery just saying goodbye to people as well, knowing that it would be the finale and then leaving. And I wasn't too delicate in the morning, which was good.
We currently have a cat, the podcast cat, tangled in our microphone. So that dingling dangling is a cat attacking the microphone at the minute. So we did the Beasties live draw.
I can't.
Sorry, one moment while the cat is almost... Oh, no, she's alive. The Beasties live draw, that was Sean Phillips, Luke McGarry, Arthur Pins and Lawrence Campbell. And I think I missed out on this because I got involved if I could have. You could put in a form and you had to write about the monster. So you give the monster's name, what it liked, dislikes, how it looked. Yeah. And then they were picked out the favourites, and these creators then drew those creatures for you. Yeah, while the person sat next to them, which was... So you had these little kids sat next to these amazing artists.
Was it just kids?
No,
there was a couple of adults. Well, I think it was aimed at kids, but some adults did get involved. And the ones...
There were a couple of cringe moments, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the adults were like really happy.
Yeah.
Occasionally there was one that was embarrassed.
Yeah.
Some of the kids were very, very shy. Yeah. They weren't told they were going to be put up on stage before.
Right.
Less to be learnt there, I think.
I think so, yes. So it's like, why did you create this monster? I don't know.
And then there was one lady who was there on behalf of her daughter, I think.
Yes.
Who had won, but unfortunately had a prior engagement with one of her friend's birthday parties.
Yeah.
So this poor lady had to go up and interpret the scrawlings of her daughter to help. Was that Luke doing hers? I can't remember.
I think it was actually, yeah.
Yeah, and that was just really funny. But they really should have given them a bit more warning.
Yes. And it was also that
very supportive, though. I thought everyone was really good at clapping and encouraging them on stage and stuff.
Yes.
But there's also that thing of you had one side you had a digital, and then the other side was live drawing, and it's like you wanted the live drawing side because they got to take away that picture that's been drawn by this amazing artist.
So they just get an email.
They just get an email with a picture of the other guys. It's like, oh, that's a shame. But no, that was a really interesting event. I must admit, it was a great event. We also went down to the Kids Zone on a Sunday, which is held in the local shopping centre every year. And essentially they have a few sellers, a few vendors there, but it's mainly creators drawing with the kids like Sean had done the previous day, persuading kids or giving kids a chance to get drawing, get involved, completely free as well, which I think is a wonderful thing that they do every year. So if you've got kids, especially if you're living around Kendal, get them over to that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just, drop them off there. Get them out of Jackson to look after them for a few hours.
I don't think it was run as a creche.
Pete, what did you get up to on the Sunday?
Sunday was a little slower. I think I was a little slower on Sunday.
I wonder why.
So I think it was slightly quieter in terms of numbers than Saturday. Didn't make quite as many sales. It generally slows down a little bit sort of after lunch, but that's great because it gives you the opportunity 2, get away from your table and have a little wander. Lots of the creators start to have a little more of a chat with each other and wander around the tables, catch up with the things you want to buy over the weekend. So a big sort of plus point was I heard Nigel next door chatting to a guy who's obviously a professional. Again, you don't always know the faces, but you know the names. But he was talking, being very effusive about Nigel's work and saying how good it was. How Nigel deserved a decent publisher, and Nigel was saying he was going to, he liked self-publishing. The guy starts saying, "Oh yeah, well my current comic at Image," and I'm like, my ears are like, "Oh, who's this guy? Who's this guy?" And it turned out to be Michael Lark. It turned out to be Lazarus. Yeah, Lazarus is Michael Lark.
Jeez.
So we ended up having, I inveigled myself into the conversation, had a bit of a chat with him, and then Mark comes back to the table, so I managed to utter the immortal words to him, "Mark, this is Michael Lark." So he was thrilled a bit. So it was great having, again, just a little informal chat with somebody whose work you admire so much, being able to pick his brain slightly as well on, because he was talking about publishing and he was talking about his publishing deal with Image. It was great for him to, be able to give you a little bit of advice. I'd mentioned that I had pitched to Image, and, he was really, really helpful, super nice to chat to, was very complimentary about the festival. His partner was with him, and she said that she didn't want to go back. She wanted to move to Kendal. She thought it was so fantastic. They talked about the difference in vibe between an American con and the festival. They felt it was much more about the work, that it was much more about smaller creatives being able to put their work forward rather than the larger, more money-led American cons. So it was a lovely, lovely chat with him. And then managed to pop around like Mike. I went to speak to Ziki at Kugali Media and caught up with his latest anthology. Had a chat with Roger Langridge and his son Thomas, who had been opposite us for the weekend.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, picked up his comic, and I picked up loads of his son Thomas's work, because his son produces a comic about a pirate called Pinkbeard. So it's like, right, I'm all in for this. I've got a comic called Silverbeard. So that. I did want to go to see Rob Davis and pick up the book of Forks, but unfortunately made the mistake of going to see Jessica on paper before Rob. Now, not a mistake in terms of Jessica, lovely artist, fantastic work, but I don't know whether it was the beer, the late nights. I don't know, but Jessica had hung around with Daisy, my daughter, who'd come to the festival with me for the last couple of years. And while chatting with Jessica and looking through some of her work, I was buying a print of Lagatha from Vikings from Jessica. And Vikings was the TV show that me and Daisy watched together. And oh man, I couldn't do it. I had to wander away. I got too emotional. It was a funny old thing that's never happened before, and bless it. It kind of put a bit of a cap on my spending. So I didn't get to meet Rob. Didn't pick up the book of Forks, and managed to freak Jessica out at the same time.
without getting upset, Pete, do you want to explain why?
Why I got upset?
Yeah.
Well, just because Daisy wasn't there for that weekend. Yeah, I probably didn't mention that. So she'd come with me for the last 2 years. She was my con buddy at the Lakes. She did.
Oh, don't. Oh.
Do you want me to explain? So she's gone to uni. Is that right? So she's grown up. Pete?
Yeah, she's studying illustration at
Stop! It'll upset us
We'll
all
move
off.
on from that. Did you?
You've baited him into that.
Oh, you're
I didn't
so
think he was going to get upset, poor
mean.
Pete.
Oh.
Let's change the topic quickly then. Did you get down to the Hellboy gallery? I can't remember if you did or not.
No,
No.
I didn't. I didn't get to see my window trail piece either in situ with Bob O'Neill Associates.
Yeah.
I think we were planning to go round on the Monday morning and pick up, see the posters and hopefully go and see the Fagrado exhibition, but time just got away from us. We had to get the hire car back. We're a bit worried about timings and didn't know how long the journey back was going to be. So yeah, it was sad, but no, didn't get to see either of those things.
I've got to say your pieces really stood out because
Oh,
the windows
wonderful,
that were in were huge.
Yeah.
And your pieces were huge.
I didn't realise. I think when I did the designs for Bob, I just got the measurements off him and then literally did a design to fit. Previously, I'd worked at the Waterside Cafe and it was all on one window, so I could do one long one.
Yeah.
And I hadn't quite realised, so I had this idea of being able to do cutouts and stuff. But in the end, I actually just looked to see what the biggest poster I could produce, and literally, and just designed to fit them. But yeah, Bob was lovely, and I did get a few comments from people over the weekend, so I was thrilled to bits. It was great fun.
My mum liked them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they just stood out.
Well,
That's the thing.
I said to I've forgotten her name now. Is does the organising?
Marianne.
Marianne.
That's it. Said to Marianne. She'd asked for a little bit of text about the piece, and I basically said that the starting point was, can you make a sheep scary? Because the theme was monsters. I decided to use lakes wildlife as the starting point. So it's like, right, okay, so what? Generally, it's not known for its dangerous wildlife, the lake. So, what can I do? So I ended up doing a monster sheep based on a herdwick. So I called that the Herd Wicked. And then I ended up doing, I suppose, some sort of giant carp type fish thing. Of course, involving Silverbeard as well. So, it was great fun. It was really good.
And then to close the event, they always have something special, which is me and Mike and yourself.
Thank
we
you.
all got there. I said we. I often leave her out of these things. She's not important, you know. So the finale zombie concert. Move on.
Oh dear. You've got to go to sleep tonight, remember?
Yeah. This was something very, very different. So it was a live drawing, which they always do a live drawing at the end, but it was based with some cinematic music in the background, which was done live. Why are you putting your face?
It wasn't in the background, was it? He was standing on the stage.
All right, explain. It was done live by musician Julien Limon of France. The event was linked in with the Lyon Festival from France. And essentially it was Charlie Adlard drawing 4 of these most famous characters from The Walking Dead with this amazing music playing. Well, to say this musician was playing next to him.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was just your piano, but then if occasionally got the guitar out and started belting away on that. What were your thoughts, Mike?
I was absolutely stunned. I really didn't know what to expect.
No.
The blurb didn't really explain what's going on. But I guess it has to be so. The actual piece of music is an extended Walking Dead theme tune.
Right.
And it was just mind-blowing. How this guy was playing so well live was just unbelievable. The sound was brilliant, wasn't it, as well?
There was no distortion at all. It was perfect.
Absolutely pitch perfect. I mean, for a bit of an odd-shaped auditorium, it is basically a cinema room. And the drawing was fantastic, as always. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and honestly, it was like quite stunning. You kind of walked out a bit, sort of like, whoa. and I have to ask: have you guys seen an episode of The Walking Dead since it's restarted, hasn't it?
Not recently, no.
No.
You can't watch the beginning of. You can't hear the theme tune without thinking, "I want a copy of that." It was superb.
It was.
And I don't know how to get hold of a copy. I haven't actually looked into it after. But it's one of these. It was kind of like an arts-funded thing between the two festivals, wasn't it? I've got no idea whether it's is it available on CD or what? I don't know if you guys know.
Well, I imagine that because at the beginning they played a bit of the main theme music, which sent shivers down your back when you hear it, because you reckon that stands out. But the rest of it, I don't know whether they've made music up for it or whether it is actual music from the series. I don't know.
No. It was an original composition by Julien, but it was. The basis of it was the theme tune. So it kept coming back to repeating riffs within the theme tune and stuff, didn't it? But the way it built up tension and then suddenly dropped it, and it was quite an experience. It really wasn't what I was expecting at all. No,
and it was so well planned between, the different drawings, that the style of the music fitted the character. They were drawing as well.
It was actually choreographed, wasn't it?
It was,
there was nods between the two of them. And I have to say, one funny story from it for us was behind me and Alison were a couple, and obviously he's drawing on a huge Wacom, and he's obviously got pre-prepared files, and with blue line underneath as a hidden layer, so it doesn't come out on the screen, because that would ruin it for people. And he draws it in a way that it's a slow reveal sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it builds up. The way he was drawing it was synchronized, so it built up with the music. And sometimes it was slow, and you were thinking, oh, I know who the character is. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, the leg, the clothing. And then suddenly, as it ramped up, within a matter of 30 seconds, an entire background was created, really simply but effectively. And this woman behind us was going, he's cheating. I can see blue lines. Can you see that in the corner? That's an extra layer and it's hidden. She's just doing all this all the way throughout. And then, obviously, I don't think she was following it completely, but once he's done it, he was just deleting the file.
Yeah.
He doesn't need it anymore. Yeah. It's Charlie Adler. He's trying to draw it again. But she was getting really upset. Oh, he's deleted it. I don't think he meant to do that. He's lost it. Finally, she shut up, but it was quite funny to hear.
But yeah, as just a piece of entertainment, it was just amazing. It really was. It was a stunning finale. Probably the best they've ever had.
Yes.
A finale, something to really make you walk out of the festival thinking, wow. Absolutely wow.
I've just looked him up. He's got other music on.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
He's up online on Amazon Music.
I did just check on Amazon.
And then finally, just briefly, we finally actually had a drink with Pete.
Who?
He's
dead to me.
They have a little closeout show for anybody who's volunteered or been involved in the vendors, which is always nice. Bit of free food. Again, you get to see all of the creators again. So, is that something they usually do as well at other events?
I don't think they do one at Thought Bubble. And it's not really a closing out thing. Isn't usually a thing. A lot of people, I think, tend to nip off quite quick. I know it was Martin and Nick went straight after us, and Gustavo. So it was just me, Mark, and Russell in the Airbnb that night. So no, I don't think generally it is. It is a nice thing to do. I certainly appreciate it, but I don't think it's a standard.
No, I think it's good for the volunteers, to be fair.
Yeah.
Really, a little thank you. In the previous years, we've had karaoke and stuff on as well, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, that was a good night, yeah.
Right. I'm going to do something. We're going to go negative, and then we're going to go positive. I want, first of all, Tom, from what you've seen, social media-wise and the event, is there anything you feel, one thing they could improve?
Social media-wise, possibly an incentive for the creators to speak about it more. I mean, there was a lot of people speaking about it, don't get me wrong, but not as much as you would think. Like, see, when it comes to, like, say, your Thought Bubble or even, like, Dunfermline Comic-Con, I think there's a lot of people put like pictures of their table and they hashtag it with like the event and stuff like that. But I think they're kind of encouraged with stuff like that when they go in. Just people maybe mention it, or there's a stream of it kind of going up online already. So there's that conscious thing of, oh, maybe I should stick my picture up kind of thing. Just stuff like that, just little bits like that to maybe give it more of an incentive. So there was a lot of it going online, but you maybe missed out on some stuff where people were or something like that, you know.
Okay, I like that. That's been typed in. I'm feeding that back. I think.
Oh, no.
I think. Well, no. This is why I'm sort of asking a question, because I think something along the lines of what Pete did a couple of years ago with the beer mats.
Oh, that was brilliant.
If that was put on every single creator table, there may be something there. But yeah. Anyway, that's going to be fed back. Thank you. Pete, is there anything you feel one thing that could be improved upon for yourself?
It would be nice to be able to go to certainly a signing, and I know it's difficult to arrange, but you can't really afford to join a queue of people to get the book signed. So whether there would be, some intermediate place you could go to where straight after the sign-in, you could just sort of nip into a post-signing room or something, or be able to leave your book. And no, it's not about signing it; it's about getting to meet the person. Whether there was some way that you could, you don't want to push in front of the punters, but you equally need a bit of a fast pass, kind of access to people sometimes. Do you know what I mean? That you could be able to meet them without queuing for 40 minutes away from your table. That would be nice.
Okay.
I appreciate it's difficult. I know some nights have the kind of preview night on some of the American cons. They have they might even go for 4 days. And the first night, I think there's an access for the exhibitors to get round almost before the doors open. So that might be a way as well. Maybe there's some sort of early bird exhibitor sort of access, because you're all setting up maybe, or you could put your name down and so that after the signing they know that there's X exhibitors that want to meet or get stuff signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a thought that's probably quite achievable, to be fair. Mike?
One negative from me is the timetable. And this is going to sound like a positive to begin with, but it's absolutely chock full.
Yes.
And one of the things over the last couple of years, you know me, I like niche. And I quite like some of the smaller, more niche, close, sort of talky bits. And I missed out a lot because there was a lot on the Saturday. It's important for me. I really like to meet creators and talk to them and stuff. And I think it should be 3 days. And I think that what the big events are, what the big names are, and those things you really want to do. Keep those on the Saturdays and Sundays. Absolutely fine. But there's a lot of smaller events, and the way they overlap, I think you could shove a lot of those onto a Friday. The real comic fans will take a day off. They'll come on the Friday, do the opening on the Thursday night, and have just a whole day of events still. Maybe not vendors, maybe not the sort of the clock tower and the creatives that are all sort of with their wares there, but maybe, yes, they might be interested. But it's the events. I think it would be really cool just to spread them out a little bit. I think they're getting more and more than they can handle, because it was chock full, wasn't it?
It was. It absolutely rammed, which is brilliant. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Sometimes you can't fit it all in.
I rely on the fact that you go to different ones to me, so that you record them.
Yeah.
Honestly, otherwise there's so much to experience. I think it could easily be a 3-dayer.
I mean, well, I suppose in a sense it is a free day because on a Friday they have the educational events.
Yes, they do.
Which you've got to be really into comics to get into. Them.
I would have gone this year. Just like I said, I was coming back from work very late, but travelling away. But again, that's fine. Do that on a Thursday. keep that away from all the other small events.
I think for me, the evening this year wasn't quite because there wasn't as much entertainment on. I quite liked. I think last year just stood out.
What, when we walked down with a tuba?
We walked down with a tuba, yeah. Simpsons creating a tuba, it was something special. But it's getting that balance, isn't it? Getting it right. Getting the events that enough people want to go to make it worthwhile. But then not having it overcrowded at the same time. It's a real challenge. Real challenge.
That was crazy, wasn't it, in the pub?
It was. You couldn't fit in the pub.
Yeah. It was all armpits to me.
I suppose that's not really negative. That's just something that's a learning exercise to get that balance just right.
Yes.
And that's a challenge for them. Have you got anything?
No.
She's there completely blank.
No, because I haven't got any negatives.
No. It's not a negative. It's just an improvement.
I'm fine.
Okay. And finally, Tom, what one thing stood out for you from being away from the event?
Ooh. Do you know, a lot of the exhibits and stuff that was going on at the time, it was something that was really shouted about, which I thought was quite interesting because a lot of the time events don't talk about the exhibits and that are going on around at the same time as the con. So it was a bit refreshing to see them saying what else was happening as well as the festival kind of thing. Like I say, once again, it was making the whole thing all encompassing. So yeah, definitely. The exhibits stood out big time.
Yeah.
Your Thomas Whedon and the Smurfs and everything like that.
Yeah.
They were all standout points that were being talked about, as well as the festival. Whilst the festival was going on, it was great.
They are stunning. Every year, that's something that they do.
That was my favourite thing, sitting in Duncan's studio, surrounded by that for hours on end, just looking at the
work. Pete, what's the best thing that stood out for yourself?
I got two. I'm cheating. I got two favourite things from the weekend. Jonathan Edwards, who did a pin-up in the back of Silverbeard, visited our table and brought the artwork for the pin-up to me and Mark. He's big buddies with Mark. He gave the artwork to Mark, and then Mark gave it to me. So I own a piece of Jonathan Edwards' original artwork of my own character. So that was absolutely mind-blowing. And then I don't think it was long after that. I'm getting mixed up of what happened on which day. What day? It doesn't really matter. But a guy came to the table. He was looking through the comic. He very directly came to the table. He said he'd seen the comic on Kickstarter. He'd seen Silverbeard. He was very interested. He was looking through. We were chatting to him. And as we were chatting to him, it turned out that he was a pro. He was a professional. And he talked about, we mentioned some of the pin-ups in the back, and we mentioned Warwick Johnson Cadwell had done a pin-up in the back. Oh, yeah, I know Warwick. Yeah, I've worked with Warwick. And, I've worked for Dark Horse. I've worked for blah. I draw BPRD. And BPRD, it's like Mike and D&D, we can't stop banging on about it, me and Hellboy and BPRD. So again, it's the immortal lines of, I'm sorry, I don't know the faces, but I know the names. And he said, I'm Lawrence Campbell. And he bought my comic by then. So I was just like, and Mark was like, oh God, he won't stop banging on about BPRD. It's one of his favourite comics. He loves you. And I was like, to have any professional buy your book is absolutely, mind blowing. But to have one of your favourite artists from one of your favourite books buy your comic was absolutely that really did, I think, make my weekend. I managed then to completely fanboy all over him. I was talking because he was the artist on the end of the book, and to have one of your favourite books finished is quite a big deal. To have it finished the way they did manage to finish BPRD, and to finish as well and as epically, it was the biggest disaster movie I'd ever seen managed to be squeezed into 22 pages of a comic. It was absolutely mind-blowing. So to be able to ask him about working with Mike Mignola and ask him to how it worked and what length of was he involved in every aspect, and Lauren said when he first started working he had to fax his email his pages over to Mike Mignola, and he didn't think they were good enough, and he wouldn't do it till the editor actually said, no, you've got to do it. Just send your pages to Mike, and getting the designs back of certain creatures from him. So yeah, it was absolutely thrilling to be able to talk to somebody who you admire so greatly, and for them to have noticed and ultimately picked up your work. So I was absolutely made up by that.
That's special, definitely.
Yeah.
Mike?
Cool. Okay, I'm going to cheat as well then. The official answer has to be, from a festival point of view, the red shirts. They're just fantastic.
Yeah.
Just to explain, the red shirts are all the volunteers that just populate the whole festival. They look after all the creators like Peace, you get your tea and your coffee and your biscuits and all that kind of stuff for you. But I was just watching them sort of like help people that probably never gone to something like this before, and the way they were directing them around town and really going like above and beyond to help them do this, that or the other. And I just thought it was fantastic. And I have a little bit of sympathy for them, because wearing a podcast T-shirt, you get mistaken quite a lot for a red shirt. It's not red, but it's black, and it's got a very similar logo. And I was asked a lot, actually, walking around town. Alison was rolling her eyes at the number of... She goes, I got another one here. And somebody else came up and said, is there a Junko exhibition on? I was like, well, no, there isn't this year, but luckily I handed you the brochure backwards. But... yeah, just watching them do it, and I just love the fact that it's like young and old, all volunteering, getting involved. I think that's superb effort for all of them. Unofficially, my best takeaway this year, and I'm going to be a bit gushy, but I got a physical copy of Silverbeard. That he gave me. I backed the Kickstarter, but he gave me a copy first, and obviously Pete and Mark both signed it, but the gushy moment comes when Pete pointed out that I was on the thank you acknowledgements, which was actually quite special. I know I was trying to explain to Alison, because she didn't really know what the late night phone calls with you were.
We covered well.
But yeah, no, that was a fantastic takeaway, and Mark gave us a little signed, he's got a Welsh alphabet book out.
Yeah.
Which was very cool as well.
Oh, bless you.
Nikki?
Oh, Rob Davis.
I thought you were going to say that.
Oh, completely fangirled over him. And his drawing you did in my Book of Forks was just, it was absolutely gorgeous.
What did he draw?
He drew Kaz. Because obviously the last one is about Kaz, isn't it? The Book of Forks. So, yeah, he wanted to draw in each of them, but we couldn't. It was a bit heavy to drag around all day. So, and it's got.
But
it's just beautiful. It looks like part of the book.
Yeah, it does. It's so good. It does look like it's a drawing done separately.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. And he's at Thought Bubble, isn't he? So
he is.
We're going to take another bit and get him to draw in that.
He's at Thought Bubble.
Yes.
Yes, because we've been there, you got them signed.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been there. They're all signed now. Yeah. But it was really sweet, and he's got quite a dry sense of humour. He was like, "Do I do it to both of you in this?" And I was like, "No, just to me."
mine, I'm going to be very corporate. I'm going to cheat though. I've got two, but one for the actual weekend was that finale show. It was so outstanding. The music just adds so much to it. It really did. It was something I've never seen before. Probably never see again. Well, I hope they do. I hope they do something similar down the line. I must admit, because it
takes a lot of work to do that. Though.
Stunning, and it really did blow me away. So there's that, and the one that we didn't see at the weekend we saw, and it's going to be odd me saying this, the Tom of Finland exhibition. It blew my mind
in many ways.
In many ways. I've never seen so many willies and enjoyed it. But it made me chuckle in the right ways.
Yeah.
That it put such a smile on my face that evening. I loved it.
We stood there with our glasses of bubbly at the opening, like at a proper gallery.
But it was just the right side of just enjoyment.
Oh, it's
for
totally,
enjoyment's sake.
Yeah, everyone was very happy in the pictures.
And it's something you wouldn't expect to see in
They make that sort of, take a chance with stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's so rare, isn't it?
And I would never have gone and seen it otherwise. In my mind, it'd be like, oh no, I'm not going to see something.
You're not
like
quite sure, are you, what you're walking into? But it was just joyful.
Yeah. So they're the two things for me, completely different. Both completely different. Very different. Right. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. Could we have your Twitter handles shouted out, please? Tom, where can they find you online?
You can find me at URAMYXURAMX or at That Comic Smell.
Mike?
On Twitter, at CthulhuPunk, or one word.
And Pete?
At This Man This Pete on Twitter and Instagram.
And next episode, I'm sure most of us will be gushing on about Thought Bubble. Hopefully we'll have some interviews, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yes. And thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for listening.
Is that it? Is that how you're finishing that?
That's it, done.
Was that your corporate ending?
I was trying to finish neatly. Now I'm going to have to do it again. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.